Right, so viewers, we're moving right into it, where we go to the recording of Commissioner Alistair Guevara following the perceived extrajudicial killing of Mr. Samaru and injury of his common law wife. So let's hear what he had to say.
Involved shooting which occurred on January the 20th, 2026 in the St. Augustine area, which resulted in 1 fatality and 1 injured. I would also like to offer my condolences to the affected families and advise that personnel from the Victim and Witness Support Unit have been engaged. A video lasting 5 minutes and 29 seconds has been circulating online, which captured 15 seconds of gunfire. While this footage has sparked widespread commentary and calls for the suspension of the officers involved and abuse of police powers under a state of emergency, it is critical to clarify that the incident did not occur because of any state of emergency or using any emergency powers granted to the police under the SOE. This was strictly routine police functions being carried out when this incident occurred. The shooting incident followed a 12-minute vehicle pursuit that began in Maloney in the Northern Division North at 12:30 p.m. and ended in St. Augustine in North Central Division at 12:42 p.m. I want to highlight that the video shared publicly represents only the final seconds of this pursuit and does not reflect the full scope of the events. Having reviewed the evidence gathered thus far, including the same video posted online, I find no basis at this time to suspend or place any officer on administrative leave. However, I have recommended counseling for the officers involved, and in keeping with our commitment to transparency and accountability, a First Division officer has been appointed to lead the investigation. Simultaneously, the Police Complaints Authority, which is an independent body to the TTPS, as well as the Professional Standards Bureau, are conducting independent inquiries. While I had considered releasing additional video recordings and audio in the public interest, legal advice cautioned against doing so, as it may prejudice the integrity of the investigation. The TTPS remains committed to accountability, but that accountability must be exercised fairly and without compromising due process. Should any wrongdoing be identified upon completion of these investigations, decisive and appropriate action will be taken. But at this time, I am asking the public to allow the investigative process to proceed. In the interim, I urge members of the public to share any relevant information with investigators and to refrain from posting potential evidence online, as this may compromise the ongoing inquiries. The TTPS remains resolute in its duty to protect and serve with integrity, and we ask for the public's patience and cooperation as this matter is thoroughly examined. Thank you.
All right, viewers, so that was the voice of Commissioner of Police Alistair Guevara following the release of the video of the perceived extrajudicial killing there. And joining me this morning is none other than prominent attorney at law, Martin George. Mr. George, thank you so much for joining us and a good morning. So we just heard from the Commissioner of Police, and he said at this time, he sees no reason to suspend his officers. Instead, he has taken the decision to suggest, to recommend counseling for them in a time where the public is crying out and alarmed and even scared, one might say, of what they saw in that video. What do you think the police service right now in that stance that they are taking where public trust is concerned?
Well, I mean, good morning to you and good morning to Tobago. You know, it is alarming and disturbing that this commissioner could stand publicly and pronounce such utter rubbish, and I make no apologies for saying so. Where are the body cams? Where are the dash cams? You know, if it is that his police officers had body cam footage, then show the public what is your basis or justification. He came out and said that it was an exchange of gunfire. The only way you can say that is if you have evidence that the persons in that vehicle were firing on the police. Where are the spent shells from the supposed exchange of gunfire? Where is the weapon? Where is the firearm that you retrieved from these persons who were supposedly shooting at the police? I mean, it is just patent folly. And you know, and the thing is, we the public have to stop accepting these foolish, facile excuses from the police service in terms of these types of scenarios. If you look at the statistics, the number of police killings in Trinidad and Tobago keeps increasing year after year after year, and we the public keep getting more and more accustomed to it, and it's like, you know, we are almost becoming immune to it, and then we sit and we listen through, you know, these type of silly excuses that, you know, oh well, he can't release his videos because he got legal advice. If it is you really have the evidence to show that your officers were under attack, and listen, it's not just under attack at the time when they executed this young man. At the time, because the video that is circulating does not show any evidence of the police being under attack at the time that they executed him. So even if it is that you are saying prior to that, you were shot at, you know, and I mean, nobody can really accept that unless the police produces evidence to show that, you know. So even if they're saying that, in this video, you saw the man put his two arms out of the window. He had no weapon. There's no allegation that the female in the car had a weapon, you know, and you hear the commissioner of all people coming out and, you know, spouting this kind of rubbish, and therefore there's never going to be accountability by his officers. He himself needs to account to the nation why his officers were not wearing body cameras, why they didn't have dash cams in the police vehicle. If it is that you were being shot at, then the police dash cam is your best evidence to bring forth and say, hey, listen, it's not what you think it is. Look, here's the footage. This is what actually happened. You see it happening all over the world where there is a call for accountability. You see people coming forth, and even the police, if they have videos, they produce their videos. You know, they don't hide behind this foolishness about, well, you know, I got legal advice not to release it. Really, it's because you are not accountable and you are not accounting to the public. And, you know, in this regard, I place all the blame fairly and squarely on the shoulders of this inept and incompetent police service commission we have. Because the police service commission, which is supposed to be the oversight body, who is supposed to be monitoring and, you know, measuring and, you know, the performance of the commissioner and deputy commissioners, you realize in almost all these circumstances, this present Police Service Commission, they remain numb and dumb. They have nothing to say about nothing. I mean, I'm sorry to use the double negative, but I'm just trying to emphasize the point in the local parlance. They say nothing about anything in any circumstance. So therefore they are like a toothless bulldog. They have no voice, no say. They do not call upon the executive of the police service to be accountable, or responsible. They should be the ones leading the charge and saying, hey, listen, Mr. Commissioner, we are calling upon you. Explain why your officers were not wearing body cameras. What about the standing order that was issued even when Gary Griffith was commissioner? Why is it that these officers are not wearing body cameras? Why is there no dash cam? That's what the Police Service Commission is supposed to be doing. So, really and truly, we are almost functioning as a nation that is almost descending into anarchy. And then you put on top of that you want to establish these ZOZOs, zones of special operations, and I mean, the point is then it's going to be unbridled police authority and, further abuses of power.
Right. And just to continue on your contribution there with the increase in police killings every year. In 2023, we had 45, 2024, we had 54, and in 2025, we had 68. So an upward trajectory every single year. The police commissioner coming out and saying that no suspension, just the counseling. And in his recording, he also said that the public just saw that ending as though he's trying to tell us there was something before that we didn't see that possibly would have justified their actions then. My question to you this morning is, how transparent should the public expect, or should I just say expect, or is the police service even supposed to be held to with the public? What kind of transparency should we be looking for throughout this process?
Well, the thing is, the police service has a duty to account and be held responsible. And if the commissioner is not doing that, then that's why I'm saying the Police Service Commission has a duty to do so. There's a case from the Privy Council which originated out of Jamaica. It's a Jamaicans for Justice versus the Jamaican Police Service Commission, where the Privy Council said that the Jamaican Police Service Commission had a duty to fully and thoroughly investigate any such allegation or any such matter in a proper and thorough and detailed manner, and that is binding upon us. But the point is, our Police Service Commission is not fulfilling its mandate in that regard. So in other words, if the police are not doing what they are supposed to do, you as the Police Service Commission, you are the oversight body. You are the ones who are supposed to call them to account, because you cannot be coming and telling the public, oh, well, you only saw the last few minutes or seconds of the video. Okay, so do you have videos that show that your police officers were under attack, that they were shot at, that they were fired upon? Let us see the video, or even tell us that you have such videos. You're not saying anything of the sort. All you're saying is you're hiding behind, legal advice. Give me a break. That is not transparency. That's not accountability. That is hiding. And then not just that, the audacity of the commissioner to say he's offering counseling to the officers. He doesn't even mention or show any sympathy for the female that survived, who, from all reports, the woman is paralyzed. He never mentioned about offering counseling to her. You think of that. Instead, he's offering counseling to the officers who carried out this execution.
From your legal opinion, sir, how strong is this video evidence in the criminal proceeding? Not criminal proceeding, but in the proceedings, and if it moves to criminal proceedings, how strong is this video evidence?
I mean, the video evidence says a lot. I mean, there would also be the evidence of, I guess, the female who was in the vehicle with him, but I mean, more than that, the question is, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have seen several instances where there had been clear cases of police wrongdoing, and even if it reaches to the case of the police officers being charged, it's either the witnesses get killed, they get murdered, their evidence gets destroyed, and it all occurs within the bosom and belly of the police service. And that's why we will never stop the crime and criminality in this country. If it is you are breeding the criminals within the police service themselves, you are nurturing, feeding, and growing them there, how you expect the crime to stop?
That takes us back to 2022 with Officer Wills, who we eventually found out was shot by one of his comrades and not the
And they
young
tried to
man
set up a civilian and blame the
from Rich
civilian
Plain.
for it. Yes.
Right, and we even had a very active manhunt out for the civilian, saying that he would have shot and killed the officer, only to
That's
finally
right.
determine that he did not shoot and kill that officer.
Because it was determined that it was a police-issued weapon and a police-issued bullet that killed him. I mean, and that's what happens. And when you have a commissioner who mollycoddles and, comforts his officers by offering them, counseling, then clearly, what signal does that send to the public? He's obviously taken the side of his officers and he couldn't care less what the public thinks. He's just putting on a PR display there. But it is obvious that if you're offering counseling to the officers who carried out the execution rather than at least the surviving victim, then that clearly tells the public where your head is at.
So, but do you also think of the commissioner's response? Is it a case of save face, shame face, ego? Because I did come out right after the shooting and say my officers were involved in a shootout. So I told the public my officers were involved with a shootout and they defended themselves. Then the video dropped. We saw something totally different from what he said. So is it that the commissioner took a 24 hours and decided to come up with a save face, shame face response that I have to stand in what I said? I can't look foolish now and bring my officers into disrepute?
Well, the thing is, he's looking even more foolish because the point is to say that and not produce evidence to support what you're saying. Then, it calls into question even more the validity or authenticity of your initial statements.
Right. As it speaks to the zones, so the zones of special operations, we know that we are still awaiting more contributions from the independent senators, and the government needs 4 votes from the independent senators in order to have this bill passed. I saw that the central government said they are willing to make amendments based on some of the queries that the independent senators would have had. But so with the constant increase in police killings, with this recent one that has sent shockwaves through Trinidad and Tobago, what is your view now looking at Zoso?
Well, the thing is, as I said, the government needs, first of all, to explain what's the rationale behind it. Because if you had a nationwide state of emergency running for almost 2 years, right? So even from when the previous PNM government had the state of emergency running, this government came into office, they continued it. So almost 2 years of a nationwide state of emergency. What will these Zozos, achieve that a nationwide state of emergency couldn't achieve? And nobody has answered that question for me yet. And that's the question I've been simply asking. In other words, what difference is this going to make that the state of emergency for the entire nation couldn't do?
I want to ask you about the public outcry now. So now we are seeing the public is outraged. We are seeing comments, even persons who are making disparaging comments about the commissioner of police following his response. So we know that right now, following this video footage, that the public is outraged. But, we would have had previous police involved, the killings, and persons sometimes have the impression that, well, it's a bandit and, the police just killed a bandit. Is it that we are desensitized? And is it that Trinbagonians need to realize that if it is open season on some, it is open season on all?
Well, and that's the reality, because the fact of the matter is, had it not been for this independent video footage, which was captured from a camera, they said, I think from a temple nearby, had it not been for that, all we would have had is the police word, and they would have probably described the man as a bandit. They would probably have planted a firearm in the car and said, look, yes, this is the firearm he shot at us with, and that would have been the end of it. So that's the importance of video footage and capturing that. And that's why the police must explain an account. If it is you are saying something different occurred, produce your video footage. Stop talking rubbish about you got legal advice not to do so. because the point is nobody is going to believe you. If it is you are saying that your officers were fired upon, but you can't produce any evidence to say so, and the only evidence we have is of your officers executing this young man and permanently maiming and injuring the female, then whom are we to believe?
That female that we recently learned is actually in hospital under police guard. So my question to you is, police clearly are emboldened to carry out these acts now. Where do you think...
If you notice this, what you are seeing here is the same playbook as what is occurring in America
in the US,
with
in
the
Minneapolis.
ICE agents, where they have been emboldened and they have basically been officially sanctioned. Go out and do what you do. Do what you want to do. Look at what happened in Minnesota. The young man murdered by the ICE agent. Prior to that, the woman who was killed, by the ICE agent, and it's happening more and more. Look, even President Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, had to say, this is a wake-up call for the nation. So if the killing of this young man and the maiming of this young woman is not a wake-up call for TNT, I don't know what will ever be a wake-up call for us.
So is it that you believe that there is some sort of breakdown also in the training? Because of course there is a narrative that is also causing this emboldened attitude. But do you think that there's a breakdown in training from the top come down? In Tobago we say fish don't rotten from the belly, from the head.
It's not a breakdown in training. It is that the police officers feel empowered to do as they wish and to ride roughshod over the public. It's a kind of behavior we have seen so many times. Even many times in Tobago, we've seen so many clients, who complain. Police come to their homes to do a search. And in so doing, they feel that they have a right to mash up everything. They mash up your furniture, mash up your TV. It is just abuse of power because they can get away with it. Look, recently you saw Justice Frank Sipasad had to renew and repeat his call for police officers to be held accountable personally for their wrongdoings. Let them pay instead of the state paying when people have to sue. Let the police officers pay personally. If you implement that, I bet you will see a drastic drop in this type of rogue and illegal behavior. But they are emboldened by the police service hierarchy. They are, allowed to do it by the impotent police service commission that we have now. And then on top of that, there's absolutely no accountability, even if you do bring a matter to court, because they are not sanctioned, they are not disciplined, they are not terminated. The most they might do is put them on suspension with pay, and then they leave and they go out to New York and they're working up there, making US dollars while they're still paying TNT, and they're laughing at everybody. And that's the farce that we have, the joke that we have in terms of accountability for our police service.
All right, Mr. George, I want to thank you so much, as always, for joining us here this morning. Always an interesting and insightful conversation with you. And so I want to wish you a very, very lovely day. And of course, we're going to pay attention to how this situation unfolds, and we're going to continue that conversation. All right, wishing you all the best today. Thank you, Mr. George.
Thank you, and the very best to you and your team.
Indeed. All right, viewers, so that was prominent attorney at law Martin George talking to us following Commissioner of Police Alistair Guevara saying he sees no reason to send his officers on suspension. They are going to get counseling, and the public only saw the last moments between his officers and the two persons in the vehicle. That's Mr. Samaru, who is now deceased, and his common law wife, who is currently hospitalized and reports that she's paralyzed and currently under police guard. Of course, we know also the Zones of Special Operations Bill, which is going to give police unfettered movement and authority to carry out duties such as curfews, random searches, and no warrants needed to search your person, your vehicle, your home. And of course, the zones would be declared by Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa unilaterally. So it's a lot to take into consideration. The ball is in the court of the four independent senators. Need 4 votes from the 9 of them in order to see this bill pass. We'll be paying attention to that and see how this unfolds, how this development unfolds. So I want to thank you so much for choosing Sunrise. We would be, of course, every single day taking on those hard-hitting current affairs topics that may affect your life. You know, interviewing here on Sunrise is over. We're not done. Tobago Updates Television. We continue conversations because there's so much more other than hard-hitting current affairs to talk about. And so we move on to the morning show. Why are they in black matching today and not me? All right, we move on to the morning show with Akin Lavi and the lovely Renessa, who clearly is against my happiness. Guys, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning? You look so radiant in your red.
Oh, really? Thank you so much. It's more of a sort of orange, you know, but I'm trying to fit. Clearly, I'm being forced to fit in and blend with you guys because I don't get the memo. Is it that you send a WhatsApp in the night?
No,
not at all. It's just purely by coincidence.
Purely by coincidence. Well, you know what? Great minds think alike. And I'm always happy to compliment and start off the day. I want to wish you guys a really wonderful program. I know you have something really packed and engaging for viewers this morning. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, right?
See you tomorrow.
All right, viewers. So that's it for Sunrise here on Tobago Updates Television. Remember, the programming is never done. We move on to the morning show. And then Good Morning Tobago with the lovely Chanel Felix. Thank you so much for waking up early every morning and joining me. It's a pleasure to ask those hard questions and dive into current affairs with you each and every morning. I want to wish you a wonderful day, and guess what? I'll see you tomorrow.